Well, thank you very much for showing up to this TTNC, Coding and Music Creation in a Multi-Agent Environment. I'm here with my co-author. This work is a collaboration between me, a computer scientist, and the co-author, a musician. And I basically have been teaching a course in simulation for undergraduates who are not probably going to continue on in computer science. It's, for so-called non-majors here in the US. And the simulation that we use, the simulation program, is called NetLogo. Well, NetLogo, as you may know, is a multi-agent environment, usually associated with social simulation, for example. But in this kind of science-heavy course, the thought was to add something that allows for creativity leveraged by computation to instill excitement and allow students to be very expressive and to see other sides of computing in this introductory course. So I'm going to take you straight away into a little demo of the software extension for NetLogo that was created. And in addition to that, show you how it might be used to teach ideas of procedural abstraction and repetition, both of which are kind of central in the early going of a computer science course. So here we have a NetLogo screen. I hope you can see that. And the only part of this that looks like the usual NetLogo is the large black area, which corresponds to the world. This has been extended with this NetLogo music, net sound extension. And the GUI elements you see off to the left are customizable and typically tied to extension elements. I'll just pop one open here and show you that. So this, for example, uses this extension that we've written and causes the deletion of a voice. So we're thinking of, as you look across the page, you've got 4 different voices, voice 0, voice 1, 2, and 3. Kind of, it looks a little bit like a musical score. And at the bottom, we've got a rhythm section. So now let me actually just give you a demonstration of what the rhythm might sound like. Now, rhythm is one of the first things we teach, and it is we usually start off with unplugged activities using a variety of noisemakers that we have the students bring in. And then we very quickly transition to, here you see in the coding tab, how we create rhythms, which are created simply using strings where digits indicate prominence and dashes no sound at all. And then we specify some number of measures. And then, as you can see at line 47, we customize some of our drums, and in one case use a default drum. So that's how we create that. And that has to be done procedurally. And so that's kind of the first introduction to that level of abstraction for the students. Then we look at, shown here, creation of a little motif. And let me actually play that, and I'll show you how a student might modify, without any coding at all really, how this sounds. So having done that, the mindset was that the student very easily visually can create an interesting melody, and they can adjust it using delete and addition, much like painting, and they can do this across the various voices. Then when we want to get into ideas of procedural abstraction, for example, we might take this initial measure here and replicate it. You might see at the very bottom of the screen where it says observer, this is a place where we could in fact do a kind of live coding music performance if we wanted. I'm not going to do that here because of the time constraint. I've replicated that measure 1 in the 3rd voice, and as you can see, an element of randomization is introduced. Okay, it doesn't overwrite the existing notes that I put in there, so it looks a little funky here. Let me show you very quickly in code what that means to our students, our blossoming computer science students. Basically, it introduces them to this notion of a procedure, extend melody with a single parameter, and then a simple while loop that calls something that does voice copying. We think repetition is something really prominent in music, really super important, but of course also really one of the powers of the computation that we hope they leverage. So let me now play this, and I'll begin using a few more procedural abstractions to go ahead and flesh out the melody, starting from that single motif. Well, I hope you can appreciate that's a lot of fun. It's rather unusual for NetLogo to be doing this kind of thing. There was a nice little twist there when we switched into a blues scale across the board. That's all I wanted to mention. You can find this, which is openly available and as an easy add-on to NetLogo. Just look for S.E. Anderson and Sound on GitHub.